Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore. Boggy Talk is recorded on Boggy Bayou in Niceville, Florida, and is hosted by Justin Wyatt and James Ross, pastors at Church on Bayshore. We typically want every matter of faith and life to have crystal clear answers, but it isn't always that easy. This podcast digs in to help Christians think with a kingdom mentality about topics that sometimes get muddy and bog us down. So let's dive in.
Well, hey, and welcome back to Boggy Talk.
We're back.
We back. The
Back
boys
again.
are back. Yeah,
Back
we
again.
need some welcome back theme music. Welcome to season 2.
Shady's back. Were you called Slim Shady in high school?
So I wasn't quite so slim in high school.
Really?
So it wouldn't have fit. I was probably a late bloomer when it came out.
I'm the opposite. I'm kind of portly now, and I was slim.
I
back
was
then.
pretty husky.
Really?
Until probably my junior year. Then I finally grew into my weight.
That's so crazy. I grew into my bones because I wear the same size pants. They just,
Speaking of Boggy Talk.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, yeah.
Husky. That is such an embarrassing word.
But that was
my son needs the 16 Huskies.
But that was I remember being in a store in time. It was
Why?
we had to shop. I
guess
that would not fly.
I guess chunky would be worse.
In the 2020s, that wouldn't fly.
They still are.
They do that?
They're husky. My 8-year-old's kind of
It's okay. Well,
husky.
our kids they take after Christy in terms of their frame, and they do not need husky.
Oh, okay, well.
Well, it is great. Thank you. I'm out of practice here. Thanks for joining us. We're kicking off week 1 of a new series. But before that, we just want to share some of the things that have been going on. We took a break for the summer and we're back. So, hey, what did you do with all this extra time?
I will say it's kind of strange that we started Boggy Talk during the COVID pandemic,
right?
Because we realized a need to connect with people more and also speak more to just some issues that we don't cover on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And we left Boggy Talk this summer and we're like, okay, COVID's kind of gone.
It's kind of gone. And
now it's back.
Speaking of being back, COVID season 2.
Yeah, I know, man. And it's scary.
It has
legitimately
changed things for sure.
Anyway, we all that's how people talk about COVID too. We joke and then get serious.
It's
real.
It is real. It is
real.
A downer. And kids being back in school, that.
I went on vacation.
Yes.
While I was out,
yes.
I read some books. I'm starting, working on my doctorate, writing a paper.
Done.
Writing a paper. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that. But what'd you do, man?
We also had a week off, went on vacation, went to the mountains, which was great, except for a accident one of our kids had and sliced open his foot. Kind of changed our plans for the week, but it was still
family size. Odds are against you.
Exactly. Somebody's going to get hurt at some point.
Yeah,
somehow.
You just embrace it as you go.
Exactly. You just roll with it. Of course, I think next vacation, we're just going to budget that into the vacation budget is ER copay,
That's good. That's good.
We just need to budget that in. Yeah. And just some downtime, which was nice. I think after this, the school year ending, and it was a shorter summer, but in some ways it felt longer because it was hot. And we just had some good family time.
Nice. I think we should just spend the next 30 minutes talking about our summers. I think that's what everybody wants to hear us do.
Everyone wants just to go back to summer at this point. Because now that school's in for a month, I'm kind of ready. We were so ready for school to start. Now we're like, when's it going to end already?
But we need to embellish our summers like we're celebrity preachers.
That's right.
And not just I went on a trip with my wife and you went on, we went to Paris and then we were preaching at this conference in Sydney and our way back on the airplane, it was about to crash. And then, we led somebody, Lord, even though they're all flying first class. So we're not sitting next to anyone. So
it
I don't
is
know how
funny.
that works.
And maybe people listening won't understand this, but it's funny. When you go to conferences, pastor conferences, the pastors who share stories about sharing their faith, it's always I was taking an Uber and I just,
that's the new airplane.
Yeah. I was taking an Uber. I'm like, but who did you do that with, where you live? And they all their stories about random chance thing, which is great. And I believe, that should, hopefully they're true and they're not embellished. But it's anyway, that's a subject of another Boggy Talk.
And it's because Mustafa, who they say is the name of their Uber driver, you cannot contact him and verify that this guy actually
right. And so, anyway, that is. But if we were,
we're still as salty as ever.
That's right. Season 2 is saltier than season.
And I just made people's ears in their car burst.
What's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're in full swing of school year, and our kids are doing flag football and chorus and band. And so, they say the days are long, but the years are short. And right now, the days are really, really long. And the years are short because we do sense that urgency.
They're short, man.
Yeah, well, we are diving into a new 4-week series here, coinciding with our teaching series on Sunday morning about fear. And we just felt as we were preparing things for Sunday morning, there's a lot to talk about here as we continue going through books of the Bible. We're in Mark chapters 5 and 6. This began with the end of chapter 4, talking with the story of Jesus calming the storm. And really, we just thought, hey, there's a lot more to unpack. And so we wanted to spend some time on Boggy Talk talking about fear, because also you're noticing that fear is just a word that's out there a lot right now.
And so we implored our exhaustive research method.
Exhaustive research.
Of Googling, what are people afraid of?
What are people afraid of? And then we found several articles of like what children are afraid of. We're like, hey, that actually is pretty thematic for like these are things that adults are kind of afraid of, but in a more a metaphorical way. So
a little more complicated here and there. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to talk about something. So, what are the things that kids are afraid of?
Yeah, so I think the top things were strange noises.
Yes.
Monsters.
Yes.
I forget the fourth one.
I do too. And the dark.
And the dark, which is
you're going to want to stay tuned for
mask.
That's right. That's
weird and ironic in our
but
current
it's so
climate.
True, because I remember one of our kids,
DeSantis's kids are afraid of masks.
Those kinds of masks. I remember one of our kids, their favorite book was Clifford growing up.
Oh,
and
okay.
so they were having like Clifford Day at the
library.
Don't. And so we went and they had someone dressed up as Clifford, and I think that people across the Atlantic Ocean heard this child scream. It's like, this is your favorite character. And as a parent, you're like, this is going to be great. And
a giant big red dog is a little scary.
It's sabotage.
Boba, and it was in Crestview, so I'm sure it wasn't the highest quality of big red dog.
No offense to our friends. But
I would have said the same for Niceville.
Yeah. It was masks. So today we're talking about the dark, but really before we talk about the dark, talking about fear, I think, as a pastor and as a worship pastor, I noticed, I'm paying attention to the lyrics that we're singing. There's a lot of songs recently that talk about fear and God overcoming our fear. We could trust Him with our fear. In fact, I looked it up, and CCLI, which is kind of like this Christian publishing, I just typed in the word like songs about fear. There were 16,000 songs that had
that's a couple.
That's a few.
Yeah.
It's like, and we sing all of them. No, but and we see, I think recently, you notice a lot of people with signs that say, fear or faith over fear. And there's lots of this talking.
No fear? We should come up with that. We should
trademark that right now. When was
Remember that? No fear? Oh, man. That was 90s.
90s?
That was when you were called Not Slim Shady.
That's right. And I was like, hey, I know fear.
And then there was like Christian No Fear too.
I'm sure there was, because the 90s was the decade of, hey, that's a popular trend in the culture. Let's make a Christian version.
You know what's so interesting about this is that we live in like the most secure time ever. I mean, there's no serious war threat right now. I mean, in our country, there's no people have security in their homes. I mean, like we have the Ring app, and like that. If you told me I was going to have that when I was a kid,
you would be like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
I'm going to be a billionaire then, right?
That's right. That's something that like Richie Rich had.
That's right. Man, all these 90s references. But
we're showing age.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's all these people are afraid more than ever, possibly in the midst of great security. And it really reveals, I think, deep-rooted issues in people, and particularly issues that maybe from childhood that haven't even fully been, dealt with or been faced.
Exactly. And so when we're talking about like the faith over fear, I think that gets used a lot. Like right now, it's like, I think it's that phrase is being misused by a lot of people who are just like using it as, I'm going to live and do whatever I want to, and I'm going to pretend that COVID isn't real and just have faith over fear. And I'm going to mock people who are actually, are taking it seriously. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like things like worry, anxiety, the unknown, things that we really are, that we maybe can articulate that is what we are afraid of. Because when we talk about fears, people are like, I'm afraid of snakes, or I'm afraid of spider or heights. But when we get down to like root behaviors, like why we act the way we act, why we do the things we do, a lot of it really is rooted in fear. And so today we're talking about the fear of the dark, because that is a real fear for kids and for adults well. And when we talk about dark, why is the dark so scary?
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of hit on this in terms of, talking about uncertainty and unknown. I think, for a child, you open your eyes in the middle of the night and you can't see anything around you.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of lacking security footing. It's not clear to how to get where you want to go next, like all those things in a very simplistic way. But I think when we talk about as adults, that fear often stays with us, the fear of the dark. Now, I mean, if I was in pitch black dark, I would in an uncertain place, I would still be a little afraid.
On edge, someone's going to grab you. Someone's going to do something.
Yeah, or I'm going to, more so I'm going to step on something like a moron that I am and, hurt myself.
Break your leg.
And afraid my wife's going to yell at me afterwards. But that's another fear. We'll talk about that later. But I think a lot of people are afraid of this uncertainty, this unknown, this darkness metaphorically in their lives.
I think that is exactly it. Like the dark is unknown. It's things around us and it really is, it comes back to, I think, we aren't in control. We like to be in control. We like to predict things. We like to know that things are sure. And really, nothing is sure in the future. Yeah. Only the Lord knows the future. We can do things that might set up circumstances that make it slightly more predictable. But even that, it's out of our hands. And so that feeling of being overwhelmed, of being out of control, really is what the dark does to us. For a child, it's like you said, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I can't see. That's hard to deal with as an adult.
Yeah. But, being cautious about uncertainty, the dark, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Like if you wake up in the middle of the night and it's dark and you're in your cabin on your vacation or whatever, like it's good that you're taking slow steps.
Right.
You're putting, I mean, like, so I think like the overreaction and, is to be like, don't be afraid at all, faith over fear. Like, I do think it's wise as, the beginning of this pandemic, we, we're like, look, we don't know what's going on. Like, we need to be cautious. I mean, whether or not we're not going to get into the nuances of that. But I think anytime something new is being introduced into your life, or you're moving into middle school, you're moving into high school, you're moving to college, you're taking a new job, you're moving to a new place, like, it's okay to be cautious. Yeah. But we can't, practically speaking, and then specifically as Christians, we can't let that darkness, that unknown, that uncertainty, for lack of a better word, paralyze us from moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great word. You can't paralyze us. I think what we do in uncertainty, I think, different people have different reactions. Some people are fine, like, hey, I just roll the dice and let's go. And some people, it can be paralyzing because you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to get hurt. And so what that can do is lead you to not do anything and be passive about things, which isn't good or healthy. Yeah. And it's like analysis paralysis. Like you just analyze and you have all these options. And I think a lot of people live here. And I think I could probably identify times in my own life when I do that. It's like you think of every possible outcome and then you don't do anything because you're afraid of some of those outcomes. And that's what the dark does to us. You can go left, you can go right. But either one has danger. Yeah. And that's not the kind of life God calls us to. That's really not, when we talk about faith over fear, like the walk of faith is saying, Jesus, I trust that you are the light, like he says he is the light of the world. Like, his word, Psalm 119, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light in my path, and I will hide your word in my heart so I won't sin against you. Like that is the illuminating the path. Right. And it's not necessarily easy to do that.
Yeah, you're really transitioning as well to, okay, so what do we do if we're in these times of uncertainty? When I was a kid, I loved those Which Way books. Do you remember those? Like if
choose your own adventure.
Right. Yeah. If you want to jump off the building, go to page 93. If you want to, and really life
and you're like, you die. Oh, that's what I'm afraid of.
I know, right? Like I died a lot in those books, but that's really what life is. You don't know. And so, the Bible uses this imagery often about paths of you just alluding to. And, one of the scriptures, I love is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight.
Yeah.
And, really what that means is, if we're trusting in God, we're not just leaning to what we naturally think, we're looking to him, we're acknowledging him in everything that we do, then, there's not necessarily a right or wrong in every situation. There is in some, but God's going to make your paths straight. And I think, he's that light. And you preached on that a little while ago, like he's the light we need as we try to navigate the darkness.
Yeah, I used that illustration of like being in the haunted house, and like that was what was the scariest thing about it, was that it was pitch black. And, like I got in the front of the group and just started like kicking, like I'm going to kick things. And I was kicking wall because I just didn't want anybody to grab me and then, get scared and then be embarrassed.
And now that I know that you were huskier, that story actually makes a little more sense.
But it's like, here we go, I gotta be over here. So it's like I think that's what we do though, is like we just run like kicking, like I'll just try this. And it's like, but we actually can, in the midst of uncertainty, walk with certainty if we're looking to Jesus. Like, I think I go back to like, when Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father with me. It's like, Jesus doesn't say, I'm going to show you the way. He's like, I am the way. So if our eyes are fixed on him, like he's going to show us. And that sounds really impractical. Like, if somebody's saying, hey, tell me, I'm just struggling with anxiety or worry of stress about the future or a decision. Give me some practical things. And that doesn't sound very practical. Like, keep your eyes on Jesus. Like, no, tell me what to do. But it is. Like,
it is. And if we stop and think about it for a second, I think we are deceived here. What I've come to realize more and more is that my life is less affected by me knowing all the right answers than it is by me having the right people around me. Like where I am in my marriage is not really about how I figured everything out. It's about who I married and who God placed around us and who we learn from and who's influenced us. When it comes to our church staff, like people often ask me like, God has really blessed our church. Like we're really by his grace doing a great job here. But whenever they ask me how, I'm like, Steve Renna, Justin Wyatt, Michael, this new children's guy, this new student guy, they're Lucas and Alec, but they don't know who they are. The people who've been here, like I
leaders
think
in the church.
I think so. If we embrace that truth, because it's so right. I've actually preached a sermon on that before about how much our life is affected by our journey is affected by the people with us.
Yeah.
Then we take Jesus, who is the person, right? Like, and that's the story in the boat, right? Like, they're going to die. Yeah. And he's like, have you not seen what I do already?
Hey guys, you remember me?
Yeah, I know. Like,
remember what I can do?
Yeah. So why are you afraid?
Yeah.
Like,
what you're saying is so good, because you think about if you've ever been alone in the dark, pitch black, by yourself, it's scary. But it's still scary if you're with someone, but it's a lot less scary if you know someone that you trust is with you. You know, and you reach out. It's kind of like if you've ever been on an airplane and experienced turbulence, and like I've been in this situation where I experienced turbulence and the person that's next to me just reached out and grabbed my hand. I was like, oh, I guess we're friends now. But it's like, there's something about people around you, having people around you that does lessen the scariness of fear. Is that the right way to say that? It lessens how the control it has, because we know like we have other people that we are leaning on who are with us, and we can learn from people.
Right. And so this is why, so this isn't a quick fix. And I think a lot of the songs and a lot of the preaching today about faith over fear is trying to tell people who haven't developed their character, who haven't been walking with Jesus, will just have faith over your fear. And it's like, actually, you probably have reason to be afraid, and maybe this is an opportunity to begin to change that. And you might already have to deal with some of the consequences that have got you where you are. But if we are the people who are being influenced by Jesus, that's going to set us up for these times of darkness, these times of uncertainty, the best we could possibly be set up. Just like, other people shaping us is going to help us best in a situation. Well, if we've been with Jesus, that's the best thing. So the best thing we can do about uncertainty is in our practical life, be spending time with God, letting him enlighten us, letting him shape us, so that when we get to these times, we are as prepared as we can be for those times. And I say all that to say his grace is with us at all of it. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
So if someone came to you and was like, I'm struggling with this, like what we're talking about, darkness, like feeling like I'm just a lot of fear, worry. What are some things that you would, as you would counsel or shepherd them through that, what would you say? And I'll start by saying I think it's important to get to the root of why we're afraid, why we're fearful, why we're paralyzed. And let's talk about that. Is it because of you want to be in control? Is it because you are fearful of? And I think if we get to the root, you start digging. So much of the root of this, and I say this like in my own heart, not just like, hey, your problem is this, like my own problem is this. It's like a lot of it gets rooted in pride and unbelief, like pride thinking that I can control things better than God can. And then unbelief of not truly trusting like who God is and his promises for me, that he actually will do a better job of leading me than I will of leading myself, that he will. So let's get to the root. And then like what you're saying, who are you walking with? Who's with you in the dark? Who do you have in that circle around you who is wise, who maybe has been in the situation before, or maybe you can trust what they're going to say. They're not going to just, they're going to empathize with you, but not let you stay there. And then the word is, be in the word and in community. So what else would you add to that?
Well, yeah, I don't know that I would add to that. I would say that worry is not trusting that God will do his job. Bitterness is not believing that God did his job. And peace is knowing that God will always do his job. And I think if we're worried, it's a sign that we don't trust God's going to come through or has our best interests in mind. And if we're bitter, it's looking back and seeing that. And I think that, depending on the trauma and things we've experienced, those are more nuanced and there's a lot more layers to that. But ultimately, I think, the Bible is not this promise that we're not going to have trouble. In fact, Jesus says, you will have trouble in this world, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And really, the more you spend with Jesus, I think the more you realize how being with Jesus transcends the things that happen to you. And I don't fully understand why certain things happen and don't happen, but the more I spend with him, the more the truth that these light momentary afflictions are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed to us in heaven becomes true. And I really think that's what Christian discipleship is it's how do I look to Jesus and who he has said I am and what he has said about my future in spite of what is going on around me.
That is absolute truth right there. I think, and you're in the dark, you turn on the light. Right. Like light is what makes the dark not scary. You turn on the light, and these are all and it's Jesus is the light. So we look to him. I think, a passage that's talked about with fear a lot is, that perfect, it's from 1 John, it says there is no fear in love. Instead, perfect love drives out fear because fear involves punishment. So the one who fears is not complete in love. So it's like if we are walking in fear, we're not truly trusting who God is, but his perfect love. Like if we will behold him, his greatness, his power, his authority, his goodness, his mercy, his compassion, if we will behold him for who he is, it gives us perspective. And then like that banishes fear.
It's interesting and it's starting to change as my kids get older, but my younger kids, if it's dark and they're scared, and I'm there, they sleep sound.
They're okay.
And I think that's great imagery for, it may be dark. We may not know what's going on around us. But if we're with our Father, we can have peace.
And that's a great illustration. Like our Father is with us. Sometimes by nature in parenting, I am like, kind of just like, deal with it. Like, you're going to be fine. And that's not like the Lord's heart for us. And so, he will often, the Holy Spirit will remind me of that. Sometimes like in my own heart, like I'm like, oh God, that's not what I need. Or sometimes through my wife saying, hey, you're actually right. But that presence, like, in their fear saying, you don't always have, like sometimes you want to just help them rationalize things away and be like, your fear is absolutely irrational. And here's the 7 reasons why. Or you're just present with them and their fear is gone because you're with them. And I think that's God's promise to us. He doesn't leave us. He doesn't forsake us. And so in the darkness, it is renewing our minds in the truth. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that next week when we talk about strange noises. But it is so much of this is just clinging to the truth, renewing our minds in the truth, and holding fast to who God is. So if that's you, if you're experiencing this kind of I can't talk, paralysis of worry, of fear, of the darkness, about uncertainty, the best things you can do, seek the Lord and seek counsel. Get people around you who can understand, who you can share with, and who are going to help you, because it's just a lot less scary in the dark with people.
Yeah, and don't want to be in the dark.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to hide things, that's why you're in the dark. And it's just time for that to come to light. Yeah. Step into the light. It exposes things. Jesus warned that, right? But it's so much better. So much better. And, if we can help you, like he said, in any of this, man, we're here to help, man or woman. We're here to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you have any questions, want to reach out, need to talk, feel free to message us, send us an email, get in touch. And next week, join us as we continue the conversation about fear, talking about strange noises. And
Hello.
It's so funny when I was going over notes, I was like,
strange voices.
I started making like that. We're just gonna do weird sound effects.
Let's do that. Let's talk about the strangest noises we've ever heard. Figure it out before we meet.
I will think about that.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in next time.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.